Hello, this is DHG, and I'm finishing up everything related to Mercenaries Playground of Destruction with my review. I still think it's a great game, but if I had to rate it off of, experiences of other games since I've had playing this one, and all the nostalgia that went along with it, I'd probably give it a good rating. If you're new to, open world games, you might think this game higher, but if you've been playing them for a long time like I have, probably good or average. Its strongest suit was always its open world gameplay and the level of destruction. Games have been out since then that really ramped the level of the destruction up, such as the sequel, which was not very good. I'll get into that in the next video I do. That and other games like Red Faction Guerrilla, which is another one of my favorite games. But I wanted to highlight this game because I think it's still extremely fun, very playable even today. The controls are a little wonky. It depends on what system you're playing it on. If you're playing it on one of the newer Xboxes via backwards compatibility, then it might not be that bad. But if you actually have a PlayStation 2 lying around and you decide to crank this up and play it, the PlayStation 2 thumbsticks were unforgiving to say the least. Visually, it still looks very good. There's a limited draw distance because there's a lot of, I would say, rendering going on, and that you could only have the view distance so far, so they obscure a lot of the map with fog. Silent Hill did something similar, but for a different reason. Overall, it sounds pretty good. The gameplay, I think the missions are pretty varied. A lot of them task you with blowing stuff up and doing other fun things, but some of the allied missions you get into, like the babysitting jobs, they're just flat out stupid, especially with the reporters, but I think they did that to prove a point that they can't stand reporters. And I would definitely sympathize with that. We've all seen the reporter on the news standing outside in the middle of a hurricane, like, yeah, there's extremely tight winds down here, and like, dude, go into a building or something, quit being retarded. That's enough of that rant. I think one of my favorite things about the game is how it gets progressively harder as you go on, which is pretty standard today, and I mean, it was pretty standard back then too, but they did a really good job of pulling it off with the last mission here. As you saw, it took me 50 minutes to complete, and that was only because I knew what to do and where to go. Then I just carpet bombed the shit out of everything. But if you're new to the game, it would take you a couple playthroughs. It had me in a level of frustration that was akin to breaking my controller. But it's well worth it. I don't think we'll ever see another sequel to this game because the second one bombed. I understood it sold pretty well, but EA owns the franchise. The developer Pandemic no longer exists. They stopped existing back in, I think it was 2009 after releasing the Saboteur. And EA is just sitting on this intellectual property. They're not going to do anything with it. So if you want to enjoy the Mercenaries games, you go back and play this first one. I recommend it. But you can also play the second one too if you want. It's fun to play, but just be warned, there is a ton of glitches with it. This is DHG, and that's my review for Mercenaries Playground of Destruction.